Good morning. It's a little after 9. I'd like to call this meeting to order.
I think they want to wait.
Or we're waiting? Okay, well, we can, do the preliminaries. And, Mayor Jacobs couldn't be here, and so as Vice Mayor, I'm going to run the meeting on his behalf. So if we could start with the determination of quorum. Do we have quorum? I don't know. I guess usually, do we need to call roll?
Like.
Yeah. Dallas. Okay. Thank you, Dallas. If you could call roll and.
I'll call the elected official's name. If you're serving as a proxy, if you'll please respond with your name. Mayor Tanya Martin.
Megan Brooks for Mayor Martin.
Mayor Tony Akins.
Amber Scott Kelso for Mayor Tony Akins.
Mayor Roland Bradshaw.
Billy Pickle for Mayor Bradshaw.
Mayor Scott Burton. Mr. Troy Ebert.
Troy Ebert for Governor Bill Lee.
Mayor Terry Frank.
Sorry, first meeting. Rome County Executive Wade Creswell for Anderson County Mayor Terry Frank.
Mayor Warren Gooch. Mayor Jeff Harris. Mayor Glenn Jacobs. Mayor India Kincannon.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lynn Fugit.
Debbie Helsley here for Vice Mayor Fugit.
Mayor Ed.
Councilmember Helsley, are you going to be the council's representative on this board?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mayor Ed Mitchell.
Don Walker for Mayor Mitchell.
Commissioner Gina Oster. Commissioner Harold Pittner. Trustee Justin Biggs.
Justin Biggs for Justin Biggs.
Mr. Isaac Thorne.
Here.
Mayor Larry Waters.
James Temple for Mayor Waters.
Mayor Andy White.
Brian Boone for Mayor Andy White.
And Mayor Ron Williams.
Mayor Williams here.
That's 13 present, ma'am.
Okay. Does that constitute a quorum?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let the record reflect. We have a quorum so we can take votes and take any other actions as needed. I don't think we need to do introductions. I do want to say welcome to Debbie Helsley. She's our Knoxville City Council rep on TPOe. Glad to have you here. And you've also served on the KTA board for many years, so you're very familiar with the CAT system and obviously familiar with our roadways as well, so we're glad to have you. Are there any people participating via Zoom? Is that what we're working on now?
Not so far.
Not so far. Okay. Are there any amendments to today's agenda? Okay. If you need a list of commonly used acronyms, that's at the back of our, where is that? Okay.
I don't think it's on there.
If you don't know an acronym, raise your hand, and one of our TPO staff members will remind us what they mean, because there are a lot of them.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made to approve the agenda. It's been made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion on the minutes from the December meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Safety performance measures. Mike.
Yes, thank you and good morning. This is an action item today for your consideration of a motion to approve a resolution adopting the 2026
Recording in progress.
Safety performance targets. So some background on this item. This is the 9th set of annual safety targets we've brought before you. We do have a deadline for this of in the next 2 days that we must adopt these. What happens first is TDOT reports or adopts a statewide target in their HSIP annual report. That's the Highway Safety Improvement Program. And then that triggers a 180-day clock for us to adopt, either support theirs or adopt our own local targets. Up until last year, we had always established supported the state targets. Starting with last year, we established a local specific target. And I'll get into some background. The reason we did that is because of the Regional Roadway Safety Action Plan that we adopted in 2023. In that plan, we had a commitment to reduce fatalities and serious injuries by 2/3 by 2045, which mathematically equates to a 5% annual reduction from starting in 2023 out to 2045. And we are also able to coordinate with the Tennessee Highway Safety Office to get the data specific to our region. You see our TPO planning area does not include full counties. In the past, it was only possible to really get the data at the county level, but with the geographic information now, we can actually tag it and cut it to our boundaries. This is a heat map of back to 2020, all the fatalities in the region. And while you can see they're concentrated in the high traffic areas and the core and our major arterials, it really does touch the entire TPO planning area. There's not any part of the region that does not experience fatal crashes, unfortunately. So the state targets, there's 5 different measures, starting with the state targets they adopted. They look at number of fatalities, the fatality rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, number of serious injuries, serious injury rate, and then finally the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. The way the state sets their targets is primarily through kind of a trend line analysis, looking at how the numbers are going and basically just setting them, projecting those forward using a lot of regression type of mathematical techniques, just kind of looking at that. They do recognize what trends are going on and try to address those, but primarily with the state like Tennessee, which is growing in population, unfortunately we do see the numbers increasing over time. However, there is some good news on the fatality side. They are projecting a lower target than the baseline. Fatalities have been trending downward as of late. When you look at the regional targets here, these again are the numbers specific to the TPO planning area. And these are a little bit less than the population ratio would be. The TPO population is 730,000. Statewide population is 7 million. So we're a little bit less than that 10% of the population if you look at it that way. And also fatality rate wise, we're quite a bit lower than what the state targets show. So there's a report in your agenda packet attached that goes through more analysis and the numbers. I'll show charts for the 3 major areas here, how we're trending and how the targets were set. Starting first with fatalities, this is the 5-year trend back to 2020. And you can see at 2023 is where we set our baseline number, and from there we have set the declining target here. These are shown in the orange, dark orange numbers. So our target would have been for 2024 to be 115 fatalities. We unfortunately were exceeding that a little bit there with 120. The good news is that 2025, the preliminary number is down to 92. It takes a little while to finalize these fatality numbers after the full calendar year, so we're not saying this is the official number yet. But it does look promising that we're trending in the right direction on the fatality side. So this just shows mathematically the targets are based on a 5-year average. The baseline number here is the average of the 5 previous years, and then we average in our target numbers here over the 5-year period that it's involved. I know it's a lot of math, and I won't get into too far in the weeds, but that's generally how we do this.
Just a quick question.
Yeah, go back.
Fatalities are anyone who dies on our roads, whether they're in a
Right.
car or on foot or bike or whatever.
Well, it has to have a vehicle involved, an on-road motor vehicle involved to be counted in here.
Okay.
But if they hit a pedestrian or bicyclist, that counts in these numbers. So this is all inclusive of that, yeah.
And it's on any kind of roadway in our TPO region.
Yes, all public roads. The private parking lots do not count in these numbers, but yeah. Unfortunately, on the serious injury side, we're seeing a different trend than what I just showed for fatalities. We had been trending downward toward 2022, then now it's on the uptick since then. And again, with preliminary numbers from 2025, we're way higher again than what we were in 2024. The official number was up here at 546. Again, if our target to be at 2/3 or 5% reduction we need to be down here. So this target is one that we're definitely not on pace to meet based on this data. So then finally, with the non-motorist fatalities and serious injuries, these are a subset of those two last numbers. So these are added together, fatalities and serious injuries, but for non-motorists. So this could include bicyclists, pedestrians, and I guess even people on scooters are now counted in this category as well. So with this number, is like the last one I showed, is trending in the wrong direction. We started again from 2023 as our baseline number. So that was actually the lowest of the last 5 years. And if you plug in the 5% reduction from there, we're trying to get down to these numbers. However, for 2024, we were way up here at 73. And then that trend is slightly reduced, but still in that same level for the preliminary 2025 number at 68. I have another, next slide here shows the breakdown of a little bit more explanation of what's going on with these numbers, but something we definitely need to address. So on the breakdown of the non-motorists, I think it's helpful to look at that contribution from fatalities and serious injuries. So the fatalities are holding steady, and actually preliminary number for 2025 is quite a bit lower. But for whatever reason, the serious injuries have dramatically increased from 25 in 2023 up to 56 and then 57 for 2025. This heat map here shows just the 2024 and 2025 serious injury non-motorists to kind of see where those are occurring. And as you would expect, it's concentrated where we do see the most exposure, most activity of non-motorized folks, and on these high volume, high speed arterial roadways in the core, things that were talked about at your December meeting. If you recall, Jonah did a presentation of the bicycle and pedestrian crash data. Roads like Kingston Pike, Broadway, Chapman Highway, Magnolia, they all kind of show up in here as where we have that conflict between high pedestrian activity and high speed traffic. So
Yeah, Ms. Kelso.
Thank you. So, I think that's quite an anomaly there with the number of, serious injuries increasing like that. The standards have not changed for what constitutes a serious injury, has it, over those years?
Those years, no. There was a definition change sometime back in I want to say 2019-ish timeframe where the exact criteria was serious injury.
Yeah.
But I think there is still some subjectivity to that. There's three different types of injuries that the responding officer can classify a crash victim as. It's serious injury, minor injury, or possible injury. So, there could be a varying level of what somebody deems.
Yeah.
There is some, if you cannot walk away from the crash site, if you're, incapacitated type.
I find that interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But it is something that is definitely a curious anomaly there that's going on with
Thank
those.
you.
Mike, do people generally, or you in particular, have theories on why it's gone up so dramatically? I have some qualitative ideas on it, but I don't know.
Right. I don't know that I'm really comfortable in saying anything specific along those. One thing I mentioned at the tech committee presentation, I did see for the first time, I did notice scooters in these numbers. I think there were 5 or 6 on personal scooter that showed up in these numbers. So, but other than that, I don't know. And I know that you guys are looking heavily into this in their Vision Zero program, definitely trying to address these.
Well, I would just say, I think from Jonah's presentation, what you just said, that it is this incidence of higher speeds on our state routes in the city, with people walking across them, on them, whatever. So it's that high speed with also people trying to walk along them. That's a very dangerous combination. So anyhow, we just appreciate, TDOT's thoughts and cooperation and ideas on how to get people to slow down and also, get people, the victims to cross at crosswalks and that sort of thing. But we just had another fatality. Motorist hit a pedestrian on Chapman Highway last night.
Oh, wow.
Just last night.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah. So these persist, and I don't know the details of that particular incident, except one person's dead and one driver feels horrible. I know that. Anyhow, it would be helpful to just continue talking about ways we can stop those, when people get hurt or killed on foot or in the cars, either way. I mean, we just had, Wes Rucker got killed on I-40, and that was a kind of thing that happens, unfortunately, all too often. So it's whatever we can do to continue to improve the safety. I think these targets, I guess these are targets we're going to vote on today.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And can you tell us the consequences of not meeting the targets? Or, aside from people dying and
Right.
getting hurt, which is horrible, why do we, how does this affect the TPO?
I
Is that in a future slide?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
get to that at the end here.
Okay.
Just a couple more slides is all.
I can comment on what we looked at in Farragut was a lot of ours were people crossing the road and that would get hit. And so looking into that, we started looking at the areas where it would happen the most. And a lot of times it was mid-block crossings. So what we tried to do was put in some marked crossings with flashing lights in certain areas to where you would have a lot of the people that would be walking on the trails and the sidewalks that could use these crosswalks, where they would push the button and the lights would flash so that the cars would know that there was somebody in the crosswalk. And that has helped tremendously. That's was our study and what we ended up doing. We budgeted money and we put quite a few of those in. So it's particularly around the parks is where you see a lot of that happening. So anyway.
Right. The one thing is we do have access to great data tools at this point now. And can actually view we have access at our staff, and I know the city does, to view crash reports, get the data summarized where we can make these heat maps and identify locations. So those are tools that we didn't always have in the past, which will hopefully help us moving forward to address the worst of the worst area.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there a age demographic in those data tools? Like, are we looking at, like Mayor Williams said, by the parks? So is there a specific age demographic in there? And then I was thinking, like, the University of Tennessee utilizes scooters and bikes a lot too. So is there something in there that shows that as well, or?
All of the data is in the crash report, the age, other factors, the weather conditions, the lighting, all that can be sliced and diced, and it's been documented. The state does a strategic highway safety plan looking statewide with all those numbers, and I know, again, City Knoxville has the Vision Zero program. You've been publishing an annual report and kind of breaking down some of the main factors.
Well, just as a reminder, Vision Zero, the goal for that is zero traffic fatalities on city streets. But our worst danger zones are not city streets, although those are problematic. But the state routes inside the city tend to be the areas where people are going really fast, and there's also bikers and pedestrians, and it doesn't mix well. But the premise of Vision Zero is that humans are going to make mistakes, and humans are going to be distracted. Humans are going to take shortcuts. Humans are going to be in a rush. And like the long-term answer, and this is important for the TPO decision-making body, is roadway design to slow cars down and divert cars that need to go fast to places that only cars are, and not have people going fast in cars right next to people, like walking with baby strollers and, things like that. So, that is the challenge, is the mixed uses of high-speed 2-ton vehicles and children and old people and people who might need more than 30 seconds to cross 4 lanes of street. You can do crosswalks, but people are always gonna take shortcuts. I mean, it's just human nature. And
Shortest
and fixing the design is retroactively is super expensive. We can add crosswalks. We do some quick builds. We did one at West High School after a student was hit by a car in a crosswalk, just to make the turning radius sharper. Making cars and motorized vehicles slow down in places where they're in congested areas is not just with this posted speed limit. Speed limits also people exceed those routinely if the road allows them to. So anyhow, I'm sorry to
Oh, you're fine.
be on my soapbox,
That's-
but it is, when, 2 people died just in the last 5 days on roads in our district, and maybe more. Those are ones that I know of because they happen inside the city. One was on I-40, one was on Chapman Highway, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
The other thing we have done is we've put speed tables in parent responsibility zones where the kids are walking, and to try to slow cars down, because we had also a little girl get run over, and it was because the radius of the road was not proper. It was way too wide, and they'd swing real wide, and she was sitting on the side of the road. So we've been putting the speed tables in parent responsibility zones to slow cars down.
So transitioning here, we've already started this discussion here about, what can we do to address this? There are several safety initiatives. It is difficult to quantify a specific project's impact on these numbers and the targets and so forth, but just want to point out here, and I won't go through each and every one of these, but of course, Federal Highway, we've talked to you guys about, has the Safe Streets and Roads for All discretionary grant program, and this region's been taking quite a bit of good advantage of that, especially the city of Knoxville with implementation grants for Chapman Highway, and previous to that, a couple of others on Woodland and Broadway and Magnolia. But there's also planning grants. A lot of our jurisdictions have received these, including the city of Alcoa has theirs currently underway. I attended a meeting a couple of weeks ago down there, and they're hoping to wrap that up soon and hopefully apply for implementation funding. And this will be the final round of SS4A with this current transportation bill, and we'll see what happens with the next future reauthorization if it still stays around, but it is a highly popular program. Other jurisdictions, town of Louisville, UT Knoxville even got a planning grant, and then Sevier County's been doing a lot of great work countywide down there. They've done a plan already, and they've applied and were awarded additional money to support that planning effort and do some demonstration projects. And then finally, TDOT receives the actual federal funding that this is tied to, these performance measures, the Highway Safety Improvement Program. And they've programmed 11 projects in our region, and I think that's later on the agenda. They're going to talk about this is along with their other programs, so I won't jump ahead in that. But included within that is the Pedestrian Road Safety Initiative. There's 3 of those in Knoxville funded through that program, and of course, Vision Zero is ongoing. So this is the final slide here, again, to wrap up. What our requested action is today is to approve. We have a resolution with these local targets. It is an option to support state targets, but we feel it's important to start tracking how we're doing against that. While it is an aspirational goal, to see how well we're tracking in that, and to bring these issues to light. That's the point of this, is to talk about where the numbers are going and what we can do. So, to answer your question earlier, there is no any formal evaluation or consequences by Federal Highway on the TPOe here. They do evaluate the statewide targets, and you have to be 4 out of these 5 have to be either below the baseline or below the target, and that's assessed every year. We still need to get at least one more year before we can do our formal evaluation under that criteria. So next year we'll start talking about how we're officially doing against these targets to get those number of years. But
Are the targets that you're proposing higher or lower than the states, or just each one's different?
So,
I don't see a state different. I don't see a column for that, or am I?
Right. I showed that one on that earlier slide, side by side, and I can go back to that here. But
page, if you just tell me the page, I can look at it.
Yeah, I don't know if I have the state targets in the actual package. It's all focused on the local targets.
Okay. Well, are they better? Are our targets
Yeah.
More ambitious or less ambitious, I guess, or aspirational, whatever the word is.
Yeah, it's kind of a quirk of the numbers here. You can see how our targets are actually higher than the baseline for the fatality numbers, but that's because of right now that's a 5-year average trailing. So we have these low numbers like the 2020 COVID year. That number is in the baseline number. So once we get out a couple more years and average in our target numbers down here, the target will come down because it's a 5-year average again. It's the mathematic part of this just makes that quirky. But again,
why would a low year make the target higher?
No, the baseline number. I'm talking about comparing against our baseline average. The baseline is this blue line here, the average of these 5 numbers, which equals 105.6. Our target is the average of these 5 years back to 2022, I'm sorry. So 2022 through 2026 is the average for the target. And so you're averaging in these lower numbers now, but you still have the high numbers back here. So hopefully that makes sense.
So it takes to 27 before you actually get to where you have the 5-year.
It's going to take a couple more years until we get that full average of our target numbers to show that we're actually trying to we are bringing the numbers down, but it's the 5-year aspect.
Why isn't a rolling average? Why wouldn't we just use the previous 5 years at all times?
This is the actual federal highway mandated process for these, what these targets are in federal regulation.
So it's 5 years, except we're only going back to 2023. Okay, I mean.
The target goes back to 2022.
Okay.
And the baseline goes back to 2020. Every year we move forward, it will roll forward one more year and take out that. So, yeah, we can, I can always talk to you afterward too, Morgan. It's 5-year average, yeah. So on the state side, there is a consequence for TDOT if they don't meet their targets. They have to do a special report documenting all of that, and also they have to dedicate their HSIP money to safety, which, I mean, they're doing that anyway, but under federal regulation, that pot of money, they could actually siphon off a certain percentage of it to regular projects if they wanted to, if they're meeting their targets. But if they're not meeting their targets, 100% has to be dedicated to safety, but that's not an issue because TDOT already uses all of that for safety. So that's all I have. If there are any other questions, I can answer.
Any other questions or discussion? So what exactly are we voting on? This resolution?
Yes, there's a resolution that formally documents the targets shown on this screen right here. So the targets again are the 2022 through 2026 5-year average. Yeah, it's on the very back page.
Okay, so the numbers we're adopting. It is, I have to say, just a little hard to adopt a target that's higher than where we are now. Like that just doesn't feel. I understand the math,
yes.
But like we're. What if we went to just kept it at 105 and 1.16 like and didn't go up? Like what would the downside of that be? And it doesn't follow the rolling average math. It's not. Right. It's based on what we hope rather than what the mathematical formula dictates. Right.
It would just, from my standpoint, that's just an arbitrary. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, either way, it's aspirational that we've set. That's this two-thirds by 2045, which translates to the 5% annual reduction. So I've factored that in, and this is how the math comes out. Again, this will just be this way for the next year or two. And once we get beyond that, the real numbers in the baseline, and it's all targets, it'll be averaged in, and everything will be lower just by the mathematics involved.
You're saying they're requiring us to follow this.
Well, I mean, we can set whatever target. We can set a target of 0. But I'm just following what the Regional Roadway Safety Action Plan parameters set out as something to hang our hat on. Is here's the number we're shooting for, and how it factors in if we follow that mathematical formula process. If that makes sense. I see your.
You should, please turn your mic on if you, it's okay, just for our.
It doesn't
Zoom
mean that
listener,
you can't
yeah.
do better. It just means that that's the target,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And
Yes,
you're,
well-
you're free to choose any other number that you feel you would like to, and that's up to you guys. This is just what our staff has put together for your consideration.
Has no effect on funding?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's just, I don't know, what do you guys think? Should we just go with the mathematical averages, or should we aim to improve more than that? I mean, we're going, the target is high, it just seems a little hard to say, oh, the fatalities in the past were 105 and we're aiming for 108.
I mean,
It's
it's
just
just because
weird.
of the average. Again, if you look at
But why do we have to use the
yeah,
average?
actually-
That's a recommendation
that's-
from
well, that's
FHWA or USDOT.
Yeah, USDOT, Federal Highway, that's how they mandate the formula,
Okay.
the way that it has to be calculated, But if you look at again, our target number, if you look at the individual year, we're shooting for a lower number in each case. It's just when you average these all in together, that's where you run into that being higher. So,
This looks like just a temporary anomaly.
right.
Yeah.
Essentially, yes.
All right, is there a motion?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is bylaws update discussion led by Doug.
All right, thank you. It's been a while since we have revisited our bylaws, and from time to time, we've had some questions or minor issues that have come up, so we thought maybe it's a time that we kind of address our bylaws. I put you should have a copy at your seat. If you don't, I have a few more copies here. Now, in order to change the bylaws, we're supposed to present a draft to you, and then you would vote on them in the next meeting. But that's not what we're doing today. There was a couple of issues I thought, before we get to the draft stage, let's just come and get y'all's opinion on some stuff, and then we'll take your all's opinion back, and we'll draft and present that draft to you at the next meeting. So the five things I want to cover is talking about our membership population threshold. We have a difference in on how often we should meet between the Tech Committee Executive Board, and we want to align those. We want to talk a little bit about the chair and vice chair officer term, the committee membership, about how we designate representatives and proxies, and then there's a couple other minor issues. So the first one we're going to talk about is if you look at Article 2, the composition, we have in there that the executive board shall be comprised of principal elected officials of governmental jurisdictions with a population of 5,000 or greater. County Executive Cresswell brought this to our attention. I think you serve on the rural RPO, but there is a portion of Roane County that is in our area. And so he was asking whether he should be a member or not. So it's a little bit of an anomaly, but I'm going to have Mike, he's kind of our population jurisdictional expert. I'm going to have him explain it to you and see it.
Yeah, I've got a chart and then a map on the next slide. And we could talk about this a little further as far as Roane County is concerned. So this table here breaks down the population within the urbanized areas and the metropolitan planning area for TPO. So the total bottom line number, we have 732,000 in the TPO planning area. And this is the 6 counties we touch. So if you look at the total population within Roane County, that does exceed that 5,000 number that's referenced in the bylaws. But you only really get there if you double count the populations within municipalities within Roane County. There's parts of Oak Ridge, which is the bulk of that at 3,600, a little over 3,600 people. There's also a small part of Oliver Springs, that crosses into Roane County. So if you look at just the unincorporated portion of Roane County, it's about 1,100 people. These are 2020 census numbers too, by the way. So if you look at the map, it's primarily because of our policy where this green shade area is the urbanized area. That's what we have to include by federal law within the MPO planning area. Our policy has been if we touch part of a city with that, we're going to take in the entirety of that city limits just to make it clear, that we don't want partial city within the MPO and not. So this part of Oak Ridge Oak Ridge has a huge city limits because of the DOE property. Most of the population's in the Anderson County part. There is parts here, and now there's a large development over here that has several hundred homes in there. So really the unincorporated part of Roane County is kind of this non-shaded area right here. So that kind of gives some background of where that population breakdown occurs. So I don't know if there's anything else on that part.
And Mike and I have been around for a long time, and we try to think back kind of how we put this in there. And it was kind of our belief that we felt like Roane County needed to have a total of 5,000 in its unincorporated area, that you wouldn't double count Oak Ridge. But we're flexible with that. That's why we're seeking guidance. The tech committee recommended at this time not putting in Roane County, but
County Executive Creswell, you want to make your case? I know you're a lawyer, right?
No, I'm definitely
No? Oh, okay. Well,
That's
thank you
okay.
for being here, and you have the floor if you'd like to share
Thank
your
you very
thoughts on
much.
that.
A couple different things. First of all, Mayor Frank and I have talked about this quite a bit, and she and I we have to work shoulder to shoulder because of everything that's happening on the Oak Ridge Reservation, working with the city of Oak Ridge, the significant growth we're seeing in industry, over $10 billion in projects announced just in private projects over the last 2.5 years. And then the significant residential growth that we're seeing I'm convinced those numbers now would exceed 5,000 just in the city of Oak Ridge from the growth that we've already seen. So I am here pleading my case for Roane County, or at least an extension into Roane County, if not the entire county, to be included in TPOe, simply because there's so much happening, and we expect really some pretty incredible federal investments happening in the next couple of years that will impact the region significantly. We have a significant issue that Amber helped solve over the last couple of weeks even, where the traffic coming from I-40 and 321, Highway 95, 321, was backing up 5 to 6 miles into Oak Ridge National Laboratory and then over to Y-12 on Highway 95. And then if you try to come out the other way on Oak Ridge National Laboratory, the Solway backs it up all the way in. So all of these are pieces that we need to be looking at holistically. If Roane County isn't included in this organization, I think there's a perspective that's missing in the planning. And where we're headed in our future, I think, I would respectfully ask TPOe to consider including Roane County in some way into the process of planning.
Yes, Ms. Kelso.
Yes, and I would, I wasn't really prepared to speak on this morning, but I'm totally in support of that, Wade, because, the way that you all are situated, with Lenoir City, with Loudoun County, you all touch everything. And with Oak Ridge being so massive, we counted thousands of cars whenever they started working on that Melton Hill Bridge.
Yeah.
Thousands, in and out of Oak Ridge. And you're impacted. Buttermilk Road, the whole thing, and all the industry coming to you.
Right.
So I see it as a positive if you become part of this in some way, whatever that looks like.
Whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Just a point of information, we have one pie, and we already have a lot of people trying to, make investments for our communities out of that pie. If we were to expand the geographic territory or the representation at this TPOe, would the pie expand, or we just have more people eating the same pie.
So the funding that comes to us is totally based on the population only within the urbanized area. So again, that's the green shaded area
So it
here.
wouldn't, so the answer is no.
The answer is no to that. And also, if you're talking about actually taking in the entirety of Roane County, I don't think that's possible without a redesignation of the MPO through the governor and everything else. We do that every 10 years when the new decennial census comes out with the new urbanized area, and we look at all of that. So that would be a point in time when we could entertain, like, if we wanted to talk about the whole county. But what we're talking about is the voting membership, but you would be strictly covering this part of Roane County within the TPO planning area as it stands right now.
And Mayor, if I could add one thing, whether TPO chooses to include Roane County now or not, I feel very confident that come 2030, it's going to happen automatically based on population.
The whole county or just
No,
that?
just the portion. Yeah.
So
Is that what you would anticipate?
Well, so these yellow shaded areas, there's actually an urbanized area comprised of Harriman, Rockwood, Kingston. So they're their own urbanized area, but it's below that 50,000. It requires to be designated as an MPO area. But they do get separate funding from TDOT under the Small Cities STBG program. It's a pretty relatively low amount of funding, but see the distance between our green area and this yellow area, and most of this is uninhabitable. To actually connect there would have to be a continuous population density to connect those together.
It's uninhabitable or uninhabited?
Well, kind of.
But
I don't know. Some of it is like this area is completely off
Okay.
limit. You know, I think Oak Ridge is actually looking at some of the area around Horizon Park. It's been in the news lately, but it's been, I think, conservation designation now.
Everything's on the table.
Yeah.
And I will say, funding is not a reason to approach TPO. We anticipate from Anderson County, City of Oak Ridge, and Roane County, federal funds, probably from an appropriation or some mixture of private, public investment that would help fund all of the infrastructure. What I'm most interested in is integrated planning within the region.
We do have a little bit of a precedent. Before Oak Ridge came a member, the decade before, they said, hey, we think it's really important that Oak Ridge be part of this. There's a great connection between Oak Ridge and the urban area. So they set as like an ex officio member until the next decade's the census, then put them in officially.
Yeah.
So that's one way we could do it, or we could just have them be a member. If we would obviously want to be sure you attend because it affects our quorum and everything. But I don't think staff, we don't have a hard line on.
Right now, it's just unclear in the bylaws whether you can double count or not. That's what we need to clear up with this bylaw revision, because it's more geared toward municipalities. The 5,000 threshold, it doesn't really speak to the county level. So that's what we need to clear up one way or the other here. And
well, could TPO staff also look into the 2026, whatever the most recent, like American Community Survey? Like, we have a lot of information since 2020 about population growth. So what are those numbers without? I mean, double counting seems like a bad practice, but regional transportation planning, sounds like a good practice. But why would we double count people? I mean, those numbers you showed are from 2020. I know Knoxville's added like 15,000 people.
We're about 10% growth since that time.
I know Lenore City's added, I think ours, the American Community Survey. Sorry. The American Community Survey in Lenore City, I think we've grown like 7,000, which is pretty big for Lenore City, a growth. Huge.
Absolutely.
Since 2020.
the only issue with those intercensal things is we don't get it down to that smallest scale of the block level that we do with decennial. It does come out at the city and maybe tract. I'd have to go back and look at it. I mean, it's something we can look into, but I'm afraid it's not as granular as we would be talking about needing to get to here.
One other thing I'd like to chime in and say on this is we don't know, we can't guarantee what the Census Bureau is going to designate the urbanized areas next time because they threw a curveball to us this year. We thought we were going to see some expansions and a few things, and then they changed the way and the distances and the splits in some of those populations.
Well, it actually went from population to a household.
Yeah, and then
It went
when
to
they
units.
reduced that jump distance, so we lost Tellico Village. We lost Tellico Village, and Seymour became disconnected from us with the 2020 because we couldn't jump and grab, but we still include them in the TPO planning area.
So, and I just say that because I thought a lot of things would be different across all of Region 1 this year, or, after that last census. And I was wrong because they changed the rules on us. Based on the old rules, it would have happened certain ways, but on the new rules that they popped in, and if they change that again on us, I mean, we're really at that. So we're at about 6 years from probably having the new boundary, because 4 years to the census, and it takes them a year or two to get the numbers out, roughly.
Yeah, it's usually a couple years before they delineate the urban area.
When are we doing our next long-range plan?
It's due in 2029.
Okay, so right beforehand. But, those are the type of things, I'm pro-planning 100%, obviously, with the planning division and coordination between all of them. We have planning from the RPOs, and they're on the technical board, and we do some work there as well. All the information we can get is better. The more information we get, the better plans we can have. I completely agree with that. As far as being a voting member or not voting member, I think that's kind of a moot point until we have more, or until we know what's going to happen in the next census. But definitely heavy involvement, I think, in the next long-range plan would be, very good. And then your planning needs as far as within the county, we can work with the RPO and then with our planning division as well to help you with some planning specifics. If you have something in a certain area we're worried about, or heavy growth, or, that sort of thing, and even give suggestions on some of your land use controls, whether or a threshold to put in a transportation analysis, stuff like that to help perfect the cities. More than happy to assist with all of that as well. I'm great. I'm very pleased that you're here to come in and look at that, because a lot of time, we don't have mayors across the state that are like, hey, we need to start thinking about what's going to happen. Well, we have some great ones around here. We just don't have them everywhere. So I think it's excellent, but whether or not to be a voting member on the board, I don't think is going to make a difference until we get to our next plan. But the assistance is definitely here to help. So whatever y'all decide, because I'm not going to jump in on this as far as that goes, but there's definitely heavy support for you, and whether it's from these guys or from us. And I had a question, Mike, how would this even affect or have anything to do with your air quality assurances or anything like that, as far as if we were to add members, that sort of thing, or expand it out? Because we can't expand out that. We could. We really don't want to expand out that planning.
Do we double count the air pollution? I mean,
I can't think of any ramification as far as that goes.
did you have some other? Maybe we should go on. You had several items.
I had a few others.
And County Executive Creswell. Obviously, whatever this board decides, you're welcome to, come and share your thoughts with us. They're open to the public, and your perspective is important. So
Right, and this is just conversation. We can always look at more of the population data and come back and give you an update on that. So, and for time, I'm going to try to run through these. This is not a decision that impacts yours, but we had a quirk, and the tech committee bylaws say we must meet bi-monthly. Your bylaws say we can meet at least quarterly. So we're going to change the tech to align those. That doesn't mean we'll meet quarterly. We'll try to see what it'll do. Sometimes we have these things like Mike did today. We have a federal deadline. When we do our mobility plan, we'll definitely in that year have to meet more frequently. But there has been some times we've been caught up where we're like, we just don't have enough information really to be meeting for the tech committee, but we have that in there. So we just think it'll be better to align those two. But once again, yours says quarterly, so you don't have to make that change. We're going to change the tech committee, just to let you know. The officer term for the executive board, we have that the chair and vice chair is a 2-year term, and then you can serve 2 years. So that could be 4 years. Mayor Frank, if you remember, just recently completed 4 years. For the tech committee, we have the chair and vice chair as a 1-year term, and they can repeat that for 2 years. We thought a 4-year commitment, that's a lot to ask somebody. And we thought it is kind of good to turn the chair and vice chair over ever so often. So we were going to recommend to you guys that we change the chair to the 1-year term, and you could repeat it once, so that'd just be 2 years. We did talk to Mayor Jacobs. He said he was fine with this also if the rest of the board, I mean, he's going off soon in August anyway, but we're open to that. If someone really feels strongly, we should stick with the 2 year.
So 1-year term with 2 potential year terms in a row.
I agree with that because of term limits on mayors. I think if you don't, you're going to run into some of that.
Right,
So
yes.
I think that's a good idea.
Any other comment or opinion? All right, we'll look at that. We can probably circle back to this also, but in the bylaws, you'll see that there's a list of who is a member. And then back on Article 6, number 2, it says, each executive board member may designate in writing a representative to serve at meetings during said member's absence. It doesn't necessarily call that a proxy. It says the executive board member can designate a representative. So we have some cases, I'll just use Debbie here. So Vice Mayor Fugit designated her to represent on the executive board. Now, can she designate a proxy, or is she's Lynn Fugit's proxy? We have every once in a while we'll have some of you say, I can't be there. Can I go ahead and send you a proxy? And when we look at this, we're like, are we getting proxies of proxies, or are we getting? So that we're just trying to seek a clarification.
Yeah.
By her appointing Debbie, is she now?
What does it say? It says the city of Knoxville vice mayor shall be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The way we do it for pension board is if you can't be there, it's a rare thing, and you put it in writing. One person can participate as a proxy. Sometimes it seems like here, and I know there's long distances. The proxy is the main person. The person, the designee is the one who basically attends most of the meetings, which may be reasonable. I don't know. That seems to be the practice.
We have quite a few people they're mayors or representatives for the mayor. They're here today. And I think as long as there's a letter on file for that particular person that they're going to be a proxy, then
right. Let's say Megan and they've been coming forever for their mayors.
Yeah.
Can they designate a proxy, or are they the mayor's proxy?
They're the mayor's proxy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So if they were
And is a designee the same as a proxy? Does a designee have voting rights? I think that's been the practice.
Right. Yes.
So we want to maybe update the bylaws to clarify that. And if the elected officials designee can't be there, then they just don't get a vote that day, I guess. Is that what you guys?
I don't believe I've ever designated somebody else.
Right.
So it's either you or the mayor,
Yeah.
or elected official.
The National NPO has a list of proxies. Like, they've provided multiple people who could be designated as a proxy, so they don't have to do a formal, every time a proxy can't make it, they have to provide you something in writing. They usually try to give you
So it could say this person
bench.
or
It's
this
a bench, yeah.
alternative. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
That's again back to whatever you got as far as a letter. Okay, saying that it's either this person or another person.
Right, but I mean, and I'm not a lawyer, but I think, it basically says that the executive board member, which would be the mayor, would have to do the proxying as opposed to the proxy doing the proxy.
And that's how Robert's rules is written as well. It's the proxy of the person that's seated unless it's described differently within the bylaws.
I think that's the way staff feels, but we just, every once in a while, we'll get a question. And so we're like, well, let's just clarify.
Do we need to change the bylaws, or is that just the record now reflects that the person that the bylaws designates, and usually that's mayors, and in some case a vice mayor, or I guess we have a few others. CAT, but is the CAT director just is that in the charter, the bylaws?
Yes.
Okay. Anyhow, it's either that person or their designee, and if you want to, and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, I mentioned this at the tech committee meeting, Jeff Orme was the member of the technical committee and the proxy for the mayor at the executive committee. And when Jeff Orme was still here, a couple days, I'd walk in on a Tuesday morning, he told me his key card and said, go to the meeting for me. There wasn't time to notify anybody. So
Uh-huh.
maybe having, the mayor would have the main proxy and maybe an alternative or two that way you can maintain your voting rights.
Okay.
Sometimes
That sounds fine.
something happens
Yeah.
in the morning.
Because there's an emergency sometimes, yeah.
Right.
I think that's a great idea to, have a proxy and then maybe a couple of
Proxy A,
alternates.
B, C.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I think we're in agreement on that.
Yeah, I think we're good on that. Thank you. We appreciate that clarification. Okay, then we got two more here. If you look at Article 6, number 4, we're scratching, I think we put this in during COVID, but it says each executive board member shall have one vote unless they have a proxy letter from another board member. In that case, then they can have 2 votes. And I don't know if we were worried during COVID about attendance or whatever, but we recommend just strike it. I don't think we've ever used that. No one has ever used that before.
That's fun. Mayor Jacobs gave me his proxy, didn't I tell you just now
yes,
today? No.
I think you're correct. I don't ever remember
That's
that.
weird.
Yeah, like I said, it may have been put in COVID when we were worried about attendance and stuff, but, so we're going to recommend just take that out, it sounds like. And then the last thing, by moving to maybe possibly more quarterly meetings, this doesn't happen a lot, but from time to time, we will have our tech committee meeting, and then someone will call us literally the day after and say, I've got something that needs to be in the tip, or we're applying for a grant and it says we need to have TPO board, have them recommend approval of this. So we want to be able to put in here a limited amount of stuff that we could bring directly to the board. Now, the executive board would always have the right to say, hey, we want to send this back to tech committee. But our recommendation, it would be not anything that the local funding that we're over, that would always have to go through the tech committee to recommend the board. But I know we've had like TDOT call us and say, we need to make a tip amendment on getting some right of way. We're about close to going to bid. Can we hurry and get this through? And if we were going to more quarterly meetings, we'd be like, okay, well, you're going to have to wait 3 more months or something like that.
And that's pretty rare too, I would think.
It doesn't happen a lot.
Right.
We do remember one time someone was applying for a grant and they were like, it says we need the executive board endorsement. And we're like, well, we just had the tech committee, but that seems reasonable that we could just take that straight to so we'll fashion this up a little bit and y'all can look at maybe the very finite things that we can do that.
I'll just add to so technical committee is not actually recognized in federal regulation. It's the executive board has the decision-making authority. Of course, we have the technical committee. Most MPOs do have a technical committee, but not all of them, even in the state of Tennessee, even have a technical committee. But you all have the final decision-making authority. We just kind of clarify that. But also in the situation of tip amendments, there's probably not many cases where we could skip technical committee because there's other requirements in terms of public involvement or even air quality conformity issues that we have to take through that whole process. So we couldn't supersede any of those requirements by this either. So that would kind of address that part of it too. So it's more of that latter issue you talked about, like a letter of support or whatever.
And one other potential suggestion is because, let's see, Article 6, number 6 talks about the executive boards by law have to meet in person. Does it require the TC to meet in person? You could, if there is something that requires a quick turnaround, could you do a email vote or something like that with the TC to keep them in the loop?
Or special call meeting.
To rise it, potentially. That's just a thought, but.
Yeah, we can go back and look at the technical committee bylaws and maybe address it that way.
Well, Doug, if you and your team could sort of sift through that and come up with a recommendation based on the input you got, especially if we go to quarterly, I can imagine a City of Knoxville grant that doesn't require any TPO dollars, but just needs the blessing of the TPO.
Right.
Yeah,
That we'd want that blessing not to hold us up.
And we hardly have any tip amendments here in Knoxville, so.
Okay, well, we appreciate your advice. We'll take that back and come back with a more firmer set of bylaws that y'all can look at. So thank you very much.
Was that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Item 5, safety and resurfacing programs.
morning, everybody. I'm Randy Bustler. I'm the work in project management in Region 1. I'm the manager over all of our program projects. Troy did me a really good solid here and helped me out and did this presentation for me, and did a really good job with it. So we're going to go through this. A little quick on the trigger there. Most of what you hear from us a lot of times in reports, we're talking about our large mega projects, so to speak, our big corridor improvements, our big widening projects. Aside from those, what we call highway program projects, we have a number of other programs that are smaller, all with funding, separate funding levels. And as we go through this, talking about the project delivery network, in 2021, 2022, the department underwent a massive overhaul. We did a major reorganization, and in that process, we looked at the way we deliver projects. As many of y'all know, y'all have voted on projects in the past. Y'all used to vote on a plan. Those projects could take, we did it in phases. You'd vote on them, the PE 1 year, right away 1 year, and then construction. But they may not be funded in that 3-year plan. You might only be voting on one funding level. Under the PDN, basically our commitment was, once we start a project in the PE phase, it's funded all the way to the end. And we will have these included. I know y'all have heard a lot of discussion about the 10-year plan. That's all of our major highway program projects. All of these program projects that I'm going to, all the programs that I'm dealing with, we work on a 3-year plan. You've heard, I've spoken to the board in the past. I used to be the pavement coordinator for the region about our 3-year plan for resurfacing. Well, basically, we've still got a 3-year plan for resurfacing, but we've also got a 3-year plan for a number of other areas. And this delivery network was set up to streamline the process to get there. As part of their new delivery process, we build project teams. Each project is assigned a project manager. And he will have a team lead, depending on the type of project, there will be a technical lead on that project. And on this chart here, you see the starred areas. That's the technical lead area for each one of those teams. The project manager, basically, he's the pusher. That individual will be the one that drives the bus, so to speak. They're the one that's going to make sure that all the pieces are put together, everybody's working together, and we're going to deliver this project. The technical lead is responsible for the design, making sure that all the elements, all the technical elements, the environmental, the geotech, the traffic, all of those things are being addressed inside of the project. This is our roadmap. Before we developed the project delivery network, this used to be a massive linear timeline where all projects were, you started over here with planning and a concept, and you went through each individual stage, everybody working in their own individual silo. And I think at one time we looked, it could have been maybe 180 steps. I mean, it was a massive thing. And as many of y'all know, it was taking 10 to 15 years to deliver a project. I mean, it took forever. And some projects took longer. With this new delivery network, we've been able to condense and combine a lot of these activities seeing where there can be overlaps, seeing where each technical area can be doing their thing, and where potentially some of this stuff can run concurrently instead of consecutively like it used to run. This has condensed our time for delivery. For our program projects, our goal right now is 3 to 5 years, which is tremendous for a lot because of, and a lot of that is driven by the amount of right-of-way we may have on the project or the utility coordination. And in some instances, the environmental. Some of these have some more detailed environmental issues that take a little bit longer to deal with. On our website now, of course, I think this, as you see out there under the Region 1, the majority of those projects you see in that column, those are our 10-year plan projects. But we also have a section now on our website that includes all of these 3-year plans for all of the programs. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the 2 divisions for projects, highways, and programs. These are our programs. We have our bridge program, our safety program, which does include, as we were talking a little bit earlier, as Mike was talking a little bit earlier about the PRSI projects. We're calling those vulnerable road user projects. Basically, they are projects to try to improve. It's a separate pot of money that the federal government has given us to try to improve pedestrian safety. And we do have several of those going on in Region 1 and in this TPO. We still have our resurfacing program. We have an unstable slope program. We have our SIA program, with State Industrial Access, which is basically an economic development arm of the department where we assist local governments in attracting industry or help those industries out when they expand. There is soon to be a new program added to this. We're also going to be undertaking our bridge repair section as well. That will be coming later on this year. And we also have what we're calling them miscellaneous programs. It's basically a catch-all. The other programs, the other things that we're doing, I don't know if y'all are familiar with our PMI 33 projects. Basically, these are all signal upgrades. These are new hardware, new cabinets, new signal heads. That's a program where we've got some, mostly I think a lot of that's funded with carbon reduction funds, but that's a program that we're doing right now in a lot of areas. We also, a few years ago, based on a memorandum of agreement, we undertook all of the roads, not necessarily the like little driveways and everything, but all of the roads in state parks are now considered state highways. So we now maintain all of those, and we actually right now have a couple of projects in a couple of state parks in the region. So all of these programs that you're seeing up here on screen, we have a 3-year plan listed on our website so you can see each one. The only one that is not published is the SIA program. And the reason for that is, number one, it's a very volatile program because it's based on economic development, number one. And number two, you have a lot of, there's a lot of discussions where we're in discussions about doing projects when there may be some confidentiality issues with companies coming in. They don't want that to be publicized necessarily until all the dust is settled. So, but that. Any questions about any SIA programs can be directly to my office, and I'll be willing to talk to you about any of them. So, of course, here's an example on our website. There's a 3-year plan. Our bridge program is divided into 2 sections. We have our own system, state routes. We have an off-system program, which is on local roads. They have separate pots of funding. The state route program is more robustly funded than the local program, but we are trying to work through and get some bridges that may not be able to be done under the state aid program. And Billy, you're well aware, a lot of are state aid bridges, but these are projects that are a little bit too large for the state aid program. There's our unstable slope program. And then, of course, like I said, we've got our miscellaneous. You can go in there and look. There's a hodgepodge of things in there that you can look at, but it's basically a catch-all for everything that I didn't mention earlier. Safety program, of course, not just the PRSIs, but we also, of course, HSIP and spot safety are included in that. And then again, our pavement program. Currently, this is the only, this website isn't exactly, this slide hadn't exactly been updated just yet. The new 3-year plan for 27 to 29 is out on our website. That one has been published. I should say that all of our other 3-year plans for 27 to 29 will not be published until probably come out almost in conjunction with the 10-year plan. It'll be sometime in mid to late April when those plans will be published. This just kind of goes over our project selection and development for our paving program. And of course, here's a list of the safety projects right now that are listed in the TPO area in our current 3-year plan. Like I said, this list is also available online.
Now, on that list, Mayor, you were talking about, or, there were 3 that came in SS4A. If you look on the type column, the narrow one there beside Eric's name, the BRU, those are a couple of those projects.
Mm-hmm. Those are the PRSI projects that we currently have under development in Region 1.
What's the SS again, Randy?
That's spot safety.
Spot safety.
And then the ones that are left blank, those are all HSIP.
The other acronym up there, if you'll look, it says like intersection of West Beaver, it's like the 5th one down. It says RSAR. That's a road safety project that has come out of headquarters. They've done plans, and that's what those are, correct? Mm-hmm. And then if you look at you have your stuff at the end, your PE right away and construction, those are all based on fiscal years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when it says construction 26, we're talking October 25 through September 26?
June of 26. Excuse me, yeah. Typically the last letting of each fiscal year is October, and the first letting will be December of the prior year. So for your 26 projects, our first letting was December of 25, and that runs all the way through October of 26. Our current goal right now is if you see one in that fiscal year, we're trying to get those out as early in the fiscal year as possible. Just because, money is, we have a finite budget for each one of these programs. And so if we start spending down and we start seeing an inflated cost, we get down to the end of the year, if we had a whole lot of projects that went over, we may not be able to let the ones late in the year. So that's something that we're trying to avoid. We're doing much better with our estimates and doing much better with our budgeting now. So we have a lot of improved tools that we did not use in the past or did not have in the past, which has helped us to deliver these programs a lot more efficiently. Of course, there's our resurfacing, y'all. That's a pretty small slide. It's hard to read, but that's some paving projects.
Yeah, the highlights on this were the yellow at the bottom of the subject to change.
Yeah. Because
of scheduling issues, running into a hiccup like a railroad, something like that.
Yeah, railroad coordination is a real big thing with us. It can cause us a lot of heartache. Something I will say about our resurfacing program is that we have been very fortunate that we've not only been able in our resurfacing program to actually pave the road, but it has given us an opportunity to work with locals with maybe some low-cost safety improvements along the way as well. One of the other things we're doing, we're required by law to upgrade any curb ramps within the corridor that we touch with paving. So that will be something that you will see if we're in a corridor that does have curb ramps. We will be upgrading those if they are not up to current standards.
Mr. Bustler, is there also a requirement to maintain the curbs, period? Because I know there's some state routes in the city of Knoxville where they've been repaved so many times that there's no more, the sidewalk, there's no difference between the sidewalk and the road.
We're trying to get back to that. That is.
I know it's expensive, but
it's difficult. I know we're working with that issue in Alcoa right now. There are some of these places, when we've dealt with this in the past, there have been some issues where when we did reestablish the curb, when we got down to the curb was destroyed. It was in horrible shape and needed to be replaced. And the resurfacing program is not funded to do that. So what we're trying to do now is, I know we're working, one instance, we've been talking with the city of Alcoa about this could potentially be an opportunity to use some of this vulnerable road user money to maybe help improve.
Because there's no protection at all for walkers anymore.
We think there may be some opportunities there. We're starting to talk with our statewide program managers about this.
But you don't ground down, you just layer on top.
Well, we do now. I think over the years, there were some in the past that just kept overlaying.
Yeah.
And that is not a practice in a curb and gutter section now. We will not just overlay the curb. We will mill down at least to the depth to where we do not cover the curb up. But I do realize, because that's not a situation that's just in Knoxville. We've got this all over the region. We're trying to address some of these as we go, but from a funding standpoint, we can't address them all, but we're trying to do the best we can at this point. But eventually we may be able to find some additional funding sources like we've been talking about with Alcoa that might be able to help with that situation.
You get a stormwater issue with it too, don't you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And anybody got any questions?
I have a quick question, sir.
Yeah.
Is this online on your website? Because I guess I'm blind as a bat and I couldn't see half of those things.
Yeah,
but I'd love to see it.
Yeah, each 3-year program, each 3-year plan is on our website right now.
Okay, thank you.
So you can go look. Yeah, it was hard to read. I know some of that was hard to read on there, but
we can also send the PowerPoint out.
Yeah, I'd love it.
Yeah, we'll send it out to everybody.
Yeah, same here.
Do we have any handouts that have like QR codes?
Not on this,
that?
but every one of those had live QR, or not live QR, but live links. So if you go to the presentation, you can hit every one of those. Or if you just went in and if you do a search for like TDOT 3-year plan bridge, it's going to take you into those programs. And when in doubt, let me know and I'll make sure you get every one of them.
The links are also available on the online agenda if you go to the agenda that I sent out in the email.
Any other questions for Mr. Bustler? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Are there some updates from TDOT and FHWA?
Do we have any federal highway folks on? I stuck my foot in my mouth last time, but.
Tracy Jenkins.
That doesn't. No. Yeah. Okay. So no federal highway updates. Real quick, a few things from the planning division's perspective. If you haven't already, I know it's been a few weeks since the governor's State of the State address, but he did mention in there a potential budget ask for another $425 million that would go towards transportation modernization, which is essentially receiving additional funds to help accelerate some of the projects that are already in the 10-year plan. I wanted to clarify that if that was something that maybe was confusing in that conversation, but hopefully that does get passed and we can keep moving these projects forward. We have a statewide plan that is currently underway. This is something that I've mentioned a couple times already, and I know that our consultant has reached out to all the MPOs and other folks in the state to receive their input. This was kind of done in a two-phase approach. The first phase was there to help us make sure that we still maintained our 20-year window of future planning. So at the end of 26, we would have jeopardized the at least 20 years out. So that was taken care of. We also have condensed our plan update a little bit to try to accommodate the potential change in administration to make sure we can get in front of that a little bit more. So our plan, and you'll see more of it, we'll have a draft hopefully by the end of or December 1st and hope for adoption sometime early 2027. So more will come. We will have updates and definitely a lot more to talk about when we get deeper into the weeds on that. Last thing I wanted to mention was the STIP that is out for federal review. I think TPO staff is well aware that has been out for review. Feds have until March 9th to provide comments, and then once we receive those comments, we will formally adopt the STIP, which by reference adopts your tips and allows those to move forward. Otherwise, we're still we do have a window, we have a buffer for the current tip, which ends officially at the end of this fiscal year, September 30th. So if anything does have to happen, like I said, which rarely does here in Knoxville, we have that as a fallback, but we're hoping that we don't need that. That's it for me. I think Troy has something on planning grants.
Oh, I had a couple quick things, and I will be very brief, or try to be brief. We had 10 planning grants that were awarded in Region 1. We had the most out of all the regions, so go Region 1. We did have 2 within the MPO area, so the TSMO study on Kingston Pike for City of Knoxville was awarded, and Loudoun County was awarded an inventory pavement, looking at the pavement resurfacing, basically mapping all their assets. So they have a accurate look at what we have. Sevier County, Anderson County did those last year. So we're very tickled with those. The OCT and the consultants will be reaching out probably sometime in mid to late March into April to get those set up. We'll do some scoping on those and then start moving forward on those. Quick update on Pell. So we're still in the process of studying the West 4075 side on the west side of Knoxville. Those meetings, we should have meetings on those coming up sometime this spring, April-ish is what we are looking at. I don't have a definitive date yet, but we're getting close as far as showing what they've come up with on potential solutions and looking at that. So be on the lookout for those. And I'd be remiss, Jason Schultz is now overseeing that project for TDOT at the regional level.
Who's that again? Jason
Schultz. And I can get that information for you. He's our current alternative delivery manager, and he would be overseeing like the widening on 4075. That's one of his projects. He is replacing Dexter, who, just to make sure that everyone is aware of this, we had a major hit for TDOT this year. We lost our leader in Region 1 with Dexter. He had a sudden illness and passed away. And so as of, it was very sudden, came on. So our current leadership at the region is Amanda Snowden is our interim director as of this point. And Andy Pageant is our interim operations director, working with Mark Dykes as keeping operations going. And that's all I have as far as specifics on that as far as our leadership right now. But
said Pageant is his last name?
Andy Pageant, yes.
Pageant.
And Andy Pageant's been running our traffic division for quite a while. Y'all should be, if you see him, you know him. Huh? Oh, yeah. And he's been in traffic division for quite a while and bounced around and went back. But Nicholas Bernard is still there, and he's up and running and keeping an eye on things on the traffic side. So it's all hands on deck. We're all doing everything we can to keep things on. But that's our current update from TDOT as of this time.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I was shocked when I saw his obituary. It was like he missed one meeting. I assumed he was gone for, holiday or something. So our condolences on behalf of the city of Knoxville and TPO. He was always a great person to work with, and did a great job, and it was just a tragedy that he lost his life so suddenly. So thank you for letting us know. And I saw his obituary, but maybe we can send it out to the members of the committee here who maybe didn't get a chance to see it. And he has obviously family members you can send condolences to and so forth. The funeral happened a month or so ago. Anyhow, thank you for the update, and our sympathies to everyone who was close to Dexter. Other business, you see our upcoming technical committee meeting is March 10th, and our next meeting is March 25th. Same place and time. Any other business? Okay, are there any members of the public who wish to speak to the committee? Okay, seeing none,
Motion to adjourn.
without objection, this meeting is adjourned.